Forces of nature. Here we're talking about Bridgerton, season 3, episode 3. It starts off with Collins. Why do I keep on calling him Collins? Colin Bridgerton. It's like a reenactment of the last scene from episode 2 where he's kissing Penelope, and it's such an intense, romantic, sensual kiss. Plot twist, it's a dream. He wakes up like huffing and puffing, waking up and like in disbelief kind of about what just happened. So we're in the Bridgerton house, and then the rest of the family is downstairs. I want to say in the drawing room. Then you see Benedict, he's teasing Gregory for an injury that he has. So it looks like he has a like a sling on his arm. And it's because he was trying to get a glimpse of a balloon. I I think at a height, and he fell off and hurt himself. And as usual, Hyacinth is there as well, and she's kind of making fun of him in the situation, I think. I might be wrong. Then we have Francesca, Eloise, Hyacinth, and Violet, and they're talking about um, how Francesca has been declared the sparkler by Queen Charlotte, and especially Violet, who is the Dowager Viscountess Bridgerton. She's excited about that, and she's like, "Oh, come on, tell me what you said again." So it's a happy time. Then Colin comes down for breakfast, and Benedict is like, "Oh, you were up late last night." Then he's like, "Oh, was I? I didn't even know. I didn't even notice. I slept like a baby. Didn't dream about a thing." And so it's like, okay. And then Hyacinth comes over and is like, I read about what you did for Penelope on in Lady Whistledown, and despite what anybody says, I think you did like a great thing. I think you are being a great friend. And then he's like, oh yeah, Penelope is a great acquaintance of she's a great acquaintance of mine. I mean of the family. And everyone is looking at him like, why are you acting so strange, man? So yeah, then like he's in denial clearly about his feelings for Penelope, and feels like if he says or does anything positive about Penelope, it's as if he's he will reveal himself. I don't know, that's just the vibe that I got. Then later on at the castle, and I want to say that's Queen Charlotte's castle, you see Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury discussing suitors for Francesca. And Queen Charlotte is like, he has to be handsome, rich, and of high rank. And then Lady Danbury suggests Lord Debling. And Queen Charlotte is like, not on my watch. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. She's like, no, he's Lord Deblin. He's a bore because he devotes half his time to nature and the other half of his time is talking about it. Like, that's boring. And Lady Danbury seems to not really be invested in the moment or showing as much enthusiasm as the Queen wishes. And she's like, listen, you have to throw the papers off. Like, so they have like these little I don't know what to call them, but they have all the suitors displayed on like a card holding stick or something like that, and they're flinging. At least Queen Charlotte is flinging the the suitors who she's dismissing off the table. And Lady Danbury does the same with Lord Debling, and Queen Charlotte is like, "You must fling it like you mean it." And then she's like, "Oh, listen, I'm so sorry. It's because I am troubled by a mysterious and unwanted." She says she's distracted by an unwanted visitor, to which we as the audience don't know who this visitor is. It's a mystery. And Queen Charlotte is like, do you want me to banish this visitor to the outer, far reaching regions of the kingdom? And she's like, nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And then over at the Featherington house, we see them talking about, like, pregnancy. And then she's like, Philippa is saying that, she thinks she'll have quite a slim figure and she doesn't think that she's going to be big when she gets pregnant. And then Prudence is like, that's not the reason why you get big when you're pregnant, is because of the baby. And then Philippa, in shock, says, so you mean the head and the body are growing inside my belly? And I'm like, oh my days. It's just like a forehead slapper. Like, Philippa. The education was just so wanting. So wanting. And of course, Portia is just like, oh my gosh, this dumb kid of mine. And then, anyways, so they start making assumptions about having an heir. And Penelope comes downstairs and she joins them and she says, what makes you think that, it's automatically going to be a boy? And that's the assumption that they all have. It's like, when you get pregnant, you're going to be pregnant with a boy. It's like 50-50 chances, guys. And Portia is like, listen, you've been up in your room all week long. The minute you come downstairs, this is what you say to me? Come on. So then Mrs. Valley comes down and she announces that Penelope has a visitor. We don't know who this visitor is. It could be anybody, but it so happens to be Eloise. She comes. Okay, and I forgot to mention something. So over at the Bridgerton house, when they were having this discussion about, when Hyacinth was talking about Colin, of course, Lady Whistledown was mentioned. And when she was mentioned, Eloise just got up abruptly and left. We don't know where to or why. We don't know if she was upset. And so she left. She got up to go over to the Featherington house. And she ends up apologizing for the rumor being leaked and ending up in Lady Whistledown. So Penelope's like, listen, I wouldn't hold it against you if you did it intentionally. And then Eloise says it wasn't intentional. And so Penelope accepts the apology and she sees it as a sign of like trying to extend an olive branch. And she accepts, as she tries to invite Eloise and to come and check out her collection of new books. But Eloise isn't there yet. She, just because she's apologizing does not mean she's interested in rekindling the friendship. And she excuses herself and says she has to go and meet a friend. And before she leaves, she says she wishes her well in whatever it is that she's trying to achieve that season, whether she has the help of her brother or not. I found that to be a sweet moment, honestly. I love the friendship that they had and I wish they could work it out, but we'll see. Then later on that very day, we see Penelope out in public. She's just going for her promenade, and you can see that the members of the town who are out there as well, still whispering and just in her face, obviously gossiping about her. But she's stepped out and she really wants to meet people and come out of her funk. So Colin happens to coincidentally be out there and he sees her and she kind of motions towards a willow tree and she motions towards it with her head and she goes under it just for some privacy, and Colin follows her there. and they talk, and it's such an awkward conversation because, like, obviously they just had a kiss the last time that we saw them together, and they haven't really talked about that case. Colin hasn't come to see her, and she's been holed up in her room. Everyone, there's still the talk of the ton, or still talk of the town. I wonder if those two are um related. Talk of the town, talk of the town. Anyways, random side note, whoever out there watches the Braxton Family Values, you know how they make fun of Trina for having a Canadian accent and saying things like how she says her words, like the house instead of the house. So saying talk of the turn and talk of the town kind of sound like that. Anyways, random sidebar. So then they talk under that tree, and they're kind of tripping all over their words. And Colin is apologizing for not coming to see Penelope. Penelope is like, oh yeah, it's okay, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's good that you didn't come to see me because if we're seen together, it would be more scandalous and it would appear on Lady Whistledown. And he's apologizing for the kiss. And she's apologizing for asking him to give her a kiss. And then he's telling her not to apologize. And she's telling him he's apologized. It's apologizing. It's just all over the place, honestly. And then, anyways, when it comes to a moment of clarity, Penelope tells Colin, listen, I don't think we should continue our lessons because Lady Whistledown has already written about us, and I don't want to embarrass you because I've already embarrassed myself and my entire family. I don't want that to be on you. And then they both agree, reluctantly, of course, and they leave. The next scene opens up to a social event. We don't know who is the host, and we see Lord Debling being considered by the other mamas as an eligible bachelor, but then they express, like, just how odd he is. Some positive reviews and some negative reviews. Like, one person is like, she finds his concern for nature to be endearing, and another person is like, okay, I don't know if it's a concern or a fixation, and it seems to be odd because he has forsaken eating meat and he eats only vegetables now. So he's kind of like an oddball in society. Then you see in another section, you see Araminta. What a name. That's Cressida's mom's name. Araminta Cowper persuading Cressida to try and secure a match with Lord Debling because he has a vast estate. And honestly, to me, it seemed like she was pushing him towards him because of the financial security that he will give Cressida. And Cressida is reluctant to pursue him at first because, as I said, he's an odd duck. And the mom cautions her and tells her, listen, if you don't pursue or get a match this season, do you know what other people will say about you? And your father and I are going to be forced to arrange a match for you. So she has no option really but to pursue somebody who is of high rank, not necessarily someone that she likes, as we have come to know this season. Then, meanwhile, on the other hand, Portia, aka Lady Featherington, who's Penelope's mom, shames Penelope into keeping a low profile because of what happened to Lady Whistledown. This society is so big on other people's opinion or what other people gossip, basically. And she's like, it's a pity your sisters are busy with something else. Otherwise, you could have hidden behind them while we're out here. Wow. I was like, wow, ouch, yikes, mom. Then Louise tells Colin about going over to Penelope's and speaking to her, and Colin's like, "Oh, Colin is like, what did she say?" And she's like, "I apologized for leaking, for being the source of the leak, and it ending up on um Lady Whistledown." He obviously isn't interested really in that, and he walks away, not in a dismissive way, but he just wants to know what Penelope said. Like, did Penelope say anything about me? What is she thinking? Like, it's all in his head. But like I said, he doesn't want to talk too much about Penelope because he doesn't want to admit to himself that he has feelings for her, but he can't help himself. Then Benedict also abandons Penelope because you can see there's some mamas out there who are really, really eyeing him and hungry to get him to marry one of their daughters. And he can see that. And like we said, in this society, any small thing equals marriage. A dance, marriage. A kiss, marriage. So in a later scene, we'll see him running away some more. So and particularly he's running away from Lady and Mrs. Stowell. And Mrs. Stowell, I mean Ms. Stowell, the newly the new debutante. Her name is Dolores Stowell, and if you remember, she was written about in Whistledown as a most accomplished young lady. Then we have Francesca, Violet, and Agatha. They're talking about suitors, and particularly because of, these ladies, they're always planning about making a match. And so they're talking, I mean, Violet is talking about how the previous week her drawing. So Violet is talking about how her drawing room that week had been full of suitors. However, Lady Agatha asks them then to name the suitors who came, and we find out, according to her, that they're all low-ranking lords. Those are the ones who are coming to court her first, and then later on it'll be the high-ranking ones. And as time goes on, and as Queen Charlotte observes Francesca and sees whether she's ready or not, she will introduce her to the highest ranking lord or highest ranking eligible suitor, who is perhaps a family member or an acquaintance, like a family friend who is a royalty. So then Violet tells Francesca, "Hey, I hope even though the queen selects a suitor for you, you will be able to follow your heart and choose the person who you think is suitable for you." And as we said about Francesca is like so closed off to the idea of finding romance. She's looking at marriage practically. She just wants a person who is suitable enough for her, they're compatible on the level of kind of being reserved and quiet, and someone who will give her like a stable life and comfortable and will help her move far away. She just wants to settle down. So she tells Francesca, "I think whoever the queen chooses for me is the person that I'll go for." And Violet is like, "Because that's the easiest choice?" And she says, "No, it's because I trust the queen." She doesn't trust the queen. It's because it is the easiest choice. She doesn't want to think about it. She just wants a suitor presented to her on her lap to be like ready, primed for her. She doesn't want to, in short, she doesn't want to put in the effort in exploring love, in doing the dance of love. She just wants to get married and move on with her life. And this in the entire season seems to be Violet's biggest fear for Francesca, just that she's complacent and not really engaged in the whole pursuit of love. Violet is a lover of love. She loves love and she likes seeing people fight for each other. She likes seeing it happening organically for couples, but and specifically couples who are her children. She's very invested in their love lives, which is fair. And we are going to see if she's going to pester Francesca or she's just going to let her be and trust the process. But I think honestly, Francesca needs a little bit fire blown under her feet. She needs to get out of her comfort zone. So Penelope, on the other hand, she is bold, and despite everything that has happened in Whistledown, she approaches other lords. Now she's more forthcoming, she's more direct, and she just greets them. And when they see her coming towards her, they're just like, oh my gosh, where's the nearest exit? But out of politeness, and I put that in air quotes, you know, they're like, oh, are you here to find another prospect to help you find a husband? Uh, if so, I wish you the best of luck. And then they just bounce. I was like, rude? And you call yourselves gentlemen? Get out of here. I go hard for my girl P. Then the Mondricks walk into the event and they are styling and profiling, after their little pep talk that they had the other night. They are just wow, the it couple. So much so that it makes Colin to say in his own words that they both cut a striking noble figure. And I'm like, hey, I know. Where's the class in A? We'll find it somewhere, won't we? Um, then they look at, I mean, yeah, they're talking to, Colin, and they're friends of the Bridgertons. We know in the previous season that Colin helped save Mondrick's bar. And so they're cool. They're cool peeps. And, Alice points out that, I see you looking at your pupil. And then Colin was like, oh, I hear that, with all the money and with all the change in style, you've developed a taste for gossip. And she's like, hold up, wait a minute. I found that to be a little bit defensive. Not rude, just a little defensive. But she turned that into a moment where she could praise Colin for helping Penelope. And, words around like being considerate, being gallant, being kind-hearted, having the mark of a good man to help a friend out in need. Those words were thrown out around by both Alice and Will. And I was like, kudos, I like them. They are a refreshing couple, a refreshing new member of the Ton, and they have, I think, injected sort of confidence in him, which he hadn't gotten from anyone around him. I think in a genuine way. Most people said that kinda at the cost of putting Penelope down. And as we know here on the Nutshell, we ride hard for Penelope. Okay? So Colin is at the side, what do I want to say, on his periphery, at the periphery of his eye, he's watching Penelope the entire time that they're there. And I think subconsciously he's threatened by the possibility of Penelope finding a husband, even though he hopes that she will get the outcome that she desires, which is securing the husband. But I think he doesn't want it to be anyone yet, because he hasn't figured out that he wants it to be him who ends up with her. So everyone is like, yeah, we wish Penelope the best. We wish Penelope the best. And it's like, deep down, it's like, yeah, we wish her the best. But do we really wish her the best if it ain't me? Anyway, so then Lord Deblin, after everything that Penelope has been through, she decides to retreat into a quiet corner. Excuse me for a minute. Penelope decides to retreat to a quiet place. I said corner. Please excuse me. So the place she retreats to is the drink station, where we, on many occasions, have found her. So she's just chilling there. And Lord Debling, he joins her and he's like, oh, like, fancy meeting you here. And she's just like, oh, why are you here? And he says that, he feels like he's while he's out there, he's being treated like prey, and he doesn't quite enjoy that feeling. And Penelope tells him, listen, this, you have come to my space, and where I'm at, it's not a place that is a desirable place to be. It's a place for social outcasts. So he says, okay, for me, I get that people are approaching me or aren't really like drawn to me or find me odd because I don't eat meat. I eat vegetables alone. And for that, they consider it to be a heinous crime. So, what reason have you been ousted from the group? And then she says that Lady Whistledown has written about her. And he's looking at her with a puzzled look on his face, a blank stare, really. And she asks him whether he reads Lady Whistledown, and he says no, he doesn't read Lady Whistledown. And then she gives him the 411 on the situation. He asked why, what was written about her, and then she tells him, she confesses that she had enlisted the help of a friend to help her secure a suitor, a husband. And surprisingly, he congratulates her and tells her, bravo for standing out of the crowd, separating yourself from the crowd, even if that made you a very high target. And then he looks at the stag or the deer that's used as decor on the walls. And she's like, yeah, but that deer never made it. I mean, that deer is dead. And then she said, and then he says, at least he made it to the party. And it's kind of like just a light-hearted moment, and it's an icebreaker for the two of them, and they laugh. And then she tells him, well, it's a rather dull party, if she's honest. And then he looks at her with a look of surprise on his face, and she apologizes for making such a bold statement. And he stops her and says, hey, you don't have to apologize. I find your frankness quite refreshing. And you can see her eyes light up and glow. And she's like, okay, the conversation is flowing. This guy likes me for who I am, and things aren't awkward as everything as my experiences have been so far. So she's engaged in a conversation with him, and you can tell like it's for real. And you can see as she's laughing and they're talking, Colin is just like side eyeing that whole conversation, and you can see he's like feeling some type of way. And by some type of way, I mean, I think he's feeling a twinge of jealousy. That's it, y'all, for part 1. I will be dropping part 2 soon. Bye.